guys, welcome back to a new YouTube video. Today I'm gonna be doing my makeup with you guys while I answer some questions that you guys had. I actually asked on Instagram things that you guys wanted advice on, so this is gonna be like a little sisterly advice for y'all. These are the videos that you guys seem to love the most, which is awesome because they're also the ones that I love making the most because I get to really interact with my audience, which is so much fun. Let's get into it. Absolutely nothing to be getting ready for today. It's a Sunday afternoon and we're not leaving the house. Actually, John just left to go grocery shopping, but when he gets back, all we're doing all day is packing things up. So no reason to get ready, but it'll be fun. It'll make me feel more productive. So, okay, I just pulled up some of the questions you guys asked. Well, not even questions. I don't really know how to word this because it's questions you guys wanted advice on. Okay, someone said, been talking to a guy for a while and he hasn't asked me to be his girlfriend. What do I do? We've been talking since December. I personally think that's a little weird, given commitment issues. I was never the type of girl who would just date to date. Well, I say that. My first boyfriend was, but that was also just like my first experience. And I think if I was more confident in who I was as a person, I wouldn't have dated him because he didn't meet any standards. I just wanted to experience having a boyfriend, you know? But I would never be the type of person who could just like casually date, I guess, because I would get too attached and put my all into it. And for me, that would make me feel not valuable to him if it was taking him so long. But also, some people in our generation want a longer talking stage. My sister and I are polar opposites in this way. She wants to talk and like really get to know you for a long time before she starts dating you. She was like that with both of her boyfriends. They talked for like 9 months. And that worked for her and that would never work for me. So I do feel like it's an individual preference thing. If you're asking me for advice on it, you're probably thinking that that's weird. So I would just say, bring it up to him, just confront it, because he's like, yeah, I just don't think I'm ready for that yet. Then you can decide, okay, is this something I'm willing to stick around and wait on, or should I just move on? Because don't waste your time. Don't ever settle, don't waste your time. I'm not saying to just, with the drop of a hat, be like, okay, it's been too long, bye. Have an open and honest conversation with him about it, which will also kind of give you some insight onto what he would be like as a potential partner down the line. Advice on how to choose bridesmaids. I feel like I have so many, but can't choose all of them. Yeah, this is something, okay, I'm 20. My fiance is 21, so we're super young and getting married. But also, I have had the same friends all of my life, essentially. Like in college, I didn't make any new friends, but I didn't rush or do anything like that. For me personally, I've never wanted a large bridal party, but also like our sides have to match. And John also just doesn't have like 100,000 friends. He dropped out of college. And he's kind of like isolated here. Not that he's lonely and doesn't have any friends, but he's in the same boat where he's had the same friends for all his life. A lot of them don't even go to school here though, and they're gonna have to travel for the wedding. So we're just doing very small wedding parties. Basically, it's your wedding. So I honestly don't feel bad at all about having such a small bridal party because at the end of the day, it's my wedding, not anyone else's. And if they are upset, they'll get over it eventually. Once they start planning a wedding, that's something that they will realize. They'll understand you a lot more when they're in the process because weddings are freaking expensive and a lot of work. Also, being a bridesmaid is kind of a lot of work. I think it's really personal preference. I, like I said, never wanted a large wedding party because in my opinion, I think it looks weird having like 100,000 people standing up there with you because I really just want it to be focused around like John and I and more of an intimate vibe. But also that would make me so overwhelmed day of my wedding if I had like 10 of my girlfriends in there with me. So yeah, I'm having just 3 people in my bridal party. John's having 3 people in his, and that's just because that's what we want. So I don't really care if it makes other people upset. But for my bachelorette trip, I am doing that with like all my girlfriends. So it's gonna be like 10 girls. And I feel like that's a good way to do it where everyone feels included, but you can still have your small bridal party and not feel overstimulated or overwhelmed. Just remember, at the end of the day, it's a day for you, no one else. So don't let other people's opinions alter your day because you're gonna look back and regret that. As we age, we're only gonna care less and less about other people's opinions on us. So just try to have that mindset whenever you start to feel worried about what other people think. be like, when I'm 60, am I gonna care about this? No, so let me just do it my way. How did you know you were ready to get married? Was there a certain moment in your relationship? I've always wanted to get married, always. Like it has been my dream since I was a little girl. Always wanted to be a wife, always wanted to be a mom, but my mom never got married and she had me when she was 40. So my mom is very much like independent woman, and a lot of my family members were always like, don't get married super young, like wait. So I kind of grew up thinking, yeah, I'm not gonna get married till I'm like 26, 27, 28, because that's what I had grown up around people telling me of when I should get married. And then once John and I started dating, I hadn't always known I wanted to be married. We started dating and I started thinking, okay, maybe I wanna get married a little bit sooner. And it just like kept being like, I just wanna get married sooner to him. But there wasn't like a certain moment, because like I said, like I don't casually date people. So once we started dating, I was literally thinking, okay, this could be my future husband. We'll see how this goes. And he's very much the same way. Like I was his first girlfriend because he was so selective. So very early on in our relationship, he made it very obvious that he was intending to marry me. And that's what he did. So like, no, there wasn't a certain moment, but we were both just kind of on the same page of like, we're not casually dating. We love each other. We're the ones we want to spend our lives with, things like that. And then as far as like getting ready, like how did I know I was ready to get married? I don't know, because I feel like it's not something where getting married is gonna change our relationship in a bad way. I think it's just gonna like unify us so much more. And I'm not worried about getting married young, because I feel like I'm actually very mature for my age, and getting married later isn't gonna do anything for me. Like, I don't know, I just never felt like I needed to wait to get married, because I know I wanna marry him and I've known I want to marry him. So what's the point in waiting? If we're both financially able to get married and we feel like that's right for us, why would we push it off? It's kind of how I feel. I don't know if that answer is actually making a lot of sense. So there was like no certain moment. We kind of both have always just been on the same page about it. I don't know why I chose to wear a sweatshirt. I'm sweating. How to get financially stable in college? That's a great question. I don't even know if I would say that I'm fully financially stable, honestly, but I have always been like pretty good with my money. I feel like I've maybe talked about this before, but I've always worked. I've had a job since I was 16 years old, which is how old you legally have to be to work, and also how you get to and from work. So I've literally been working since I was 16, because I've always just wanted that freedom to have my own money. And then I started college and my mom was like, hey, I think you should take at least just like your freshman year to not work and to really like focus on school, because it's gonna be like a transition from high school probably. I took a semester off though, because after a semester of not working, I hated feeling so trapped by not having financial freedom. So I started working again my second semester of my freshman year, and I've been working ever since. Always having some kind of steady form of income is a good way to stay financially stable, but also you're in college, so don't expect to have all the money in the world yet, because you're literally like in your early 20s. Like you're not gonna be financially stable. I actually did start my TikTok last May though, because I was working as a server and I was making like $400 to $500 a weekend, which was plenty for me to live on for my bills and things, my expenses. But then I ended up quitting that job because I wanted to work as a research assistant on campus, because that was going to give me experience and look competitive on grad school applications. So I was like, this is going to be a huge pay cut, because I'm going to go from making $400 to $500 a week to making $400 a month. So I worked my butt off over the summer to save a lot of cash so that I could take that pay cut to get this experience. But I also simultaneously decided to start making videos on TikTok, just on the off chance that that could turn into something that I would be making money on. And it became something where now I can make money off of it. So don't be afraid to take risks. It was very risky for me to say, I'm gonna not work and make this consistent income because I wanna get this experience for grad school. And I'm also gonna trust that if I start putting in the effort on TikTok, that can turn into something where I can make money on. So take risks in that sense, but also have backups, because if I ended up not being able to make money, I would have had to get another job and I would have just had to make it work. Also budget though. I really don't spend money on myself except for food. I really don't. So you really have to be able to have the mindset of Is this something I actually need, or is this something that I want? And it's not bad to spend money on yourself every once in a while, but there's also certain things that you're doing for yourself out of habit that you probably don't need to be doing. Like whenever I stopped working, I was like, okay, I'm getting my nails done 2 times a month. I can't really afford that, and I don't really need to be doing that, so I didn't. Now I do get my nails done because I can't afford it now. But when I couldn't, I'm not gonna overextend myself for a luxury that I don't need. Does that make sense? Hi, I've been with my boyfriend for a year and I can't tell if I've fallen out of love or if our relationship has moved out of the honeymoon phase. Also love you and your channel. Thank you so much. Appreciate your support and thanks for the question. This is a hard one for me to answer because I feel like the honeymoon stage isn't a real thing. Like I think that there's this initial excitement when you start dating someone new, but I like have consistently felt that excitement throughout my 3-year relationship with John. Maybe some things aren't as new and exciting as they were when we first started dating, but I still feel like giddy and excited all the time. So I feel like when you're in a really healthy relationship, the honeymoon phase should never end. Like obviously a relationship is gonna ebb and flow, and that's normal, and you're gonna have moments where you feel more connected to one another and moments where you don't, but it's never like an extended period of time, at least for John and I. Like there's never been, honestly, even more than a day-long period where I feel like we're in disagreement or like not feeling connected to one another. So I don't know, maybe you have fallen out of love. That's really hard for me to answer. But there's probably things going on with your relationship dynamic that are making it feel like maybe you guys don't really go on dates anymore and you kind of just like hang out with one another, and so you don't really feel like you're dating. And that makes it feel like, okay, I'm not in the honeymoon stage, am I not in love? But really it's just that you guys have just become friends instead of boyfriend and girlfriend. That's definitely a conversation I would have with your partner though, and just say like, hey, I've been feeling kind of disconnected from you. Like I don't know if there's something going on in our relationship, but something's off. Like let's address this and figure out what we can do to move forward to fix this. Wedding planning tips. Just got engaged and need guidance. You're the perfect person to ask. Well, thank you. I'm honored. I don't know if I am the perfect person to ask, but I will take this moment to talk about wedding planning because I love it. I'm very type A though, and I'm also very new in the process. I got engaged February 1st, so we're like a month and a half in to wedding planning, except I was partially wedding planning before because if you guys don't know, we booked our wedding venue before we were even engaged. So I've always been type A. I love planning. What I did is I made a Google Doc and I have literally everything on there. I have all the vendors that we're gonna need and then like potential options of who we're gonna use, prices, our budget on there. I have our potential guest list. When we sent out our save the dates, I did like everyone's name and address. I have who we're planning on having in our bridal party and our groomsmen party, like all the things. I just have like this shared Google Doc that I can add to. I highlight all of the prices in one color, so if I'm like scanning the document, I can quickly see what is monetary, like what's related to the money. But I would say don't do the wedding planning all on your own, and I'm not saying like hire a wedding planner. I don't have a wedding planner, but more like get your friends and family and your spouse, your future spouse, involved in the planning process because that makes it so much easier. Like my sister is so helpful. One, because she recently attended a wedding. I haven't gone to a wedding in so long that there's a lot of little details that I don't even really think about that she knows because she just went to a wedding. So she's like, who is gonna walk down the aisle with mom? And like, what's the bridal party entrance song gonna be? All of this stuff. Super good resource. Also just like TikTok stuff is honestly such a good resource. There are so many ideas on TikTok, but I'm just gonna keep documenting my entire wedding planning journey. We're kind of at a standstill. We haven't really done anything else yet, but I'll keep you posted. I don't know if that was a helpful answer either. Basically just like don't rely on your own strength. You're gonna need help from other people, and a lot of people probably have more experience in this than you do, so let them help you. Okay, advice on figuring out how to know it's okay to have disagreements in tense stages in relationships. Yeah, just know that this is all normal, and I think a lot of times in our society as younger people, we are constantly comparing our relationships to online relationships, And people in online relationships are only showing you guys the good parts. Like, it's all a highlight reel. And so then it can make you feel like, oh my gosh, we're experiencing something not normal. Maybe we should break up because these people that I follow on Instagram, like, they're not fighting. Like, yes, they are fighting. They're just not posting about it as you're not posting about it, because who's gonna post about that, you know? But just know, like, that's a very normal thing. What's important is how you guys can communicate that to each other. There has to be this like mutual level of respect for one another where you can bring up arguments and disagreements in a healthy way. So like no screaming and yelling at each other. And this respect is so important because then you can have disagreements and you can talk about them without it being like arguing. Because I can be like, I respect you so much, John, that even though we don't see eye to eye on this, I want to actually hear your perspective on it because I respect you and I love you. So I know that even though we don't see things exactly the same, you have merit to your understanding of this. So explain it to me and we can maybe find common ground. But a lot of it is just communicating. Tense stages, I feel like we've never had like tense stages. It can get a little tense when we're having arguments or disagreements. But really then it's like not even tense, it's just like uncomfortable until we talk about it. But the more, like, once you guys start breaking things down, whatever your disagreement is about, it always starts off super tense, at least for us. It starts off super tense because it's awkward bringing that stuff up. No matter how long you've been together, you don't like making each other upset. But then, like, as you start talking about it, you guys both soften up and it just becomes like communicating where you're honestly yearning for their perspective and yearning to share yours with them. At least that's how it is for us. It's kind of like an uphill battle where it's like super, super tense for us to try to get to the point that we're trying to explain. And then once we can break our feelings down, it's like, whew, and we can just explain both perspectives. But just know it's normal. It's really more important how you guys are handling that and also how often they're happening. Because if you guys keep having the same problem over and over, obviously something's not working because someone's not changing a certain behavior that is upsetting you guys or causing strife in your relationship. You guys have to love each other enough to compromise and to give things up or to do certain things that will help your significant other feel more comfortable. Not beyond reason. Like, have your boundaries. Don't let your significant other control you. But it's hard, especially for me, to sometimes admit that maybe I've been wrong or that I need to like change certain ways that I do things. But your love has got to be stronger than your pride and wanting to please yourself, because when you're in a relationship, it's a unity. It's not a self-centered thing. So you're just gonna have to learn to compromise and not compare yourself to other people's highlight reels of their relationship. Honestly, it is so hard for me to focus on answering these questions and doing my makeup. So I'm gonna finish it super fast and then just sit down with you to answer the rest of these questions. Okay, sorry, I literally just could not concentrate. I've gotten a couple questions about my faith and my relationship. Someone said, handling your walk with God as boyfriend and girlfriend and now fiancés / how you're keeping him centered. And someone else said, how to stop lusting in a relationship before marriage. So I've gotten a couple questions about this, and it's definitely something that I'm like hesitant about talking about because I don't want to say something, and you guys can probably hear the washer in the background, so sorry. I don't want to say something and then you guys take it and run with it and be like, this is the right thing to do because this is what Rebecca said, because that's not true at all. Like, I'm just a person interpreting things, and also what I believe in is probably different than what you believe in because we're all like unique individual people. Also, I've never marketed myself as like a Christian influencer. Honestly, an influencer in general seems weird to call myself because like I'm not trying to influence you guys to do anything. I'm just simply recording myself and my life and posting it online. So it's more of like sharing my life and my experiences with you than trying to influence you guys to live the same way I do, I guess. But I mean, for me, it is the central part of my life, and my fiance's life is our faith. And it's hard because I feel like I get pushback when I talk about certain things, and I can give you advice, but at the end of the day, the best advice and the best way you can get answers is through you seeking Jesus yourself. And reading the Word of God, honestly, because that'll tell you a lot more than my YouTube video will. But yeah, I was actually, it's hard also because I feel like so new in my faith that I can't really give you super sound responses because I'm still like working through my journey as well, you know, both of us are. But I never grew up religious. I started going to church with my fiance, who was my boyfriend at the time, and that's kind of how it started. I started going to church, then I started reading my Bible outside of church and just like developing my own personal relationship. So like the sanctification process is still happening in my life, which sanctification is basically just as you get closer to the Lord, the Holy Spirit sanctifies you, which is just pruning things from yourself before you were saved in Christ. It's how I would describe it if you're not someone who is a Christian. But yeah, there's a couple things I could talk about as far as like things I'm trying to do right now as fiancés in like a religious aspect, because marriage from a Christian perspective is like the unification of you two, which I feel like I keep saying unification so much throughout this, but it's like you guys literally become one flesh when you get married from a Christian perspective. And so something that I've been trying to do is like really get into that mindset of being like, okay, we're gonna be literally combined in every sense now, like finances, for example, we're gonna be having conjoined bank accounts. So I try to be very cautious now on like my spending habits and his spending habits, because it's gonna be our money. So I don't want that to be a cause of strife in our future relationship. And another thing is realizing that like his responsibilities will also become mine, because it used to be really easy for me to like come over to his house and him be like, okay, I need to like take the trash out and go to the grocery store and do all of these things. And I would just be like, okay, I'm just gonna sit in the bedroom and play on my phone while you do that. But I don't want to be so comfortable doing that like once we live together, I just feel like apathetic to that kind of stuff and just like kind of expect him to do it all. I don't know if that makes sense. So I try to be more involved now in like household responsibilities, even though this isn't my house yet. I'm trying to break that habit of thinking in a more single-minded way, if that makes sense. I also feel like the lusting thing, I don't want to like talk too much about that because I don't want my YouTube video to get like, they're specific about what you can talk about on YouTube essentially. So I gotta like watch my words a little bit, but that's also something where it's definitely very individual to the people, to the relationship of like what you can and can't do without doing things you shouldn't, if that makes sense. So it's also a process. So like there are maybe certain things we're doing now that we weren't doing before because we've become more sanctified. So I don't know. It's something I appreciate you guys wanting my advice on, but something maybe I'm not super comfortable really being able to give you sound advice yet because I'm still working through that. Maybe one day I can do a whole in-depth video on our journey with stuff related to that, but too early as of right now. Gosh, there's so many. This video is gonna be so long. Okay, there's a few more questions about finances in regards to marriage. Someone said how to save up money to get married, and someone else said financial advice for young 20s couples, wedding house, etc. Yeah, this is also another thing that's very individual to the couple because obviously like my income is going to be different than yours and my fiance's income is going to be different, but we're both very, well, honestly, we're different with finances, whereas like he's more of a risk taker financially, not in a bad way, but as an entrepreneur, like you have to spend money to make money, and that's hard for me to do personally because I don't like to do things without knowing 100% I will get return on my investment, whereas he's always grown up with this entrepreneur mindset of like you have to spend money to make money type of thing. Where was I going with that? The best advice I can give you is to live within your means, because if you're living within your means, then you're gonna be financially stable. So really just getting rid of this narrative in your mind that you have to have like the picture perfect house. or that you have to have a new outfit for every single occasion. Because a lot of things that we do, or a lot of the things that we pay for, is really just like, it's more personal. It's not things you actually need. It's things you want to make yourself look cooler or have a higher social status or things like that. But no one's gonna care if you're driving a brand new car if you like can't afford to buy yourself food. Like, buy the old used car and be able to afford groceries. Buy the smaller, older house to be able to be more financially free. Best advice is to just live within your means and really be able to see the worldliness of all of the stuff that we feel like we need that we actually don't. Like, especially in our age of social media, so many people think that they need so much stuff that they don't. Like, you don't need brand new Anthropologie mugs for your iced coffee. Like, if you can afford them, I'm all for it. I'm just saying, like, don't prioritize that over other things. Also, don't get into credit card debt. I have a credit card because I want a credit score, but I use that like a debit card. Like, right after I swipe my credit card, I go to my debit card and I transfer however much money I spent on my credit card there. So I'm never, ever, ever gonna get into credit card debt. I mean, I probably will someday when I have to buy more expensive things like a house or something, but I'm not gonna use my credit card that has like a $3,000 limit to buy something I want that's $3,000 if I don't have that money in my bank account. Live within your means. Don't be blinded by social media thinking that you need all this brand new stuff, because if you live within your means now, when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you're gonna be living a lot better than these people who are in their 20s now spending all their money on useless things, and then they don't have a retirement, or they're in so much debt they constantly feel stressed out because they don't have control of their finances. So live within your means and be on the same page financially with your partner. How to tell if you're in love or if it's just an obsession. Gosh, I wish I would have thought about this when I was in my first relationship, because that was definitely not love. It was definitely an obsession, and not even in a good way, because I wasn't so obsessed with him that I was blinded by his faults. It was like I was so obsessed with the idea of being in a relationship that I just allowed him to treat me like crap, because at least I was in a relationship. So it was like this obsession with being in a relationship. But the difference is when it's an obsession or if it's love, then you're gonna be equally obsessed with each other, and he's gonna be providing you things, not like material things, but he's gonna be benefiting your life. Whereas if it's an obsession, that typically means that it's like an unhealthy, almost addiction to someone, and it's usually an obsession because they're not actually giving you anything back, so you feel like you have to put so much more in. Does that make sense? How to talk to a guy you want to be with and not be awkward or dry/boring. Girlfriend, I needed this advice when I was a freshman in high school. The first guy that I talked to when I was a freshman in high school literally stopped talking to me because I was so awkward in person. Now he's married to one of my best friends and we're friends, so crazy how that works. But yeah, at the time, I honestly can't even blame him for it because I was so awkward. Like, we would sit at the lunch table together and I just couldn't even talk to him because my face would get so bright red that I would be so nervous. But I think that just goes away with age. Like, as I became more confident in myself, like with John, I was nervous, but it was easy to keep up a conversation because we were similar. So it really was never dry or boring because we could always find something to talk about. And it's awkward in the same way that like meeting someone for the first time, it's always awkward, whether it's like a girlfriend, like a girl you're trying to be friends with, or a future significant other, whatever. It's just always awkward. But the mindset of like, it's only awkward if I make it awkward has really helped me with a lot of things, because it's so true. Like, someone else might think it's awkward, but if I'm gonna tell myself I don't think it is, I'm in control of that, you know? But I think it just comes with confidence in yourself and being actually compatible with the person you're trying to talk to, because it is going to be dry and boring and hard to start conversations if you guys aren't compatible, because then you're just like grasping to try to get something that isn't actually there, you know? I'm going through a breakup with a man who I wanted to get married to. Any advice? First of all, I'm so sorry. Breakups are horrible. My breakup, I've only gone through one breakup, and it wrecked me. It absolutely wrecked me, and it was not with a man I ever thought I was gonna get married to, so I can't even imagine the pain of that. But honestly, going through a breakup, I think is one of like the most fundamental part of a woman's life. At least it was for me. Like, as much as that relationship was crap and the breakup really sucked, I wouldn't go back and change going through it. I think I needed to go through a breakup in my life for like self-growth reasons and really figuring things out about myself. But yeah, like I remember in my relationship, it was so bad. I literally had a list in my notes of like things to do once we break up. I wonder if I can find it. It's like, why are you even dating someone if you can have something like that in your notes? I don't know. Oh my God. It's literally things I want to do whenever blank breaks up with me. Let me read you what I wrote. Read. Whenever you want to check your phone, read instead. That's actually a good option, because I feel like one of the hardest parts for me after the breakup was like, when you're in a relationship, you always have someone to text like mundane updates to, and then you break up and it's like you lose that sense of routine, which I would text him and I would get responses like after 8 hours. So it really wasn't that different. But yeah, that's a good one. Read instead of wanting to check your phone. Going to the gym, trying new restaurants, bake new foods, dye my hair. Glad I didn't do that. Go to church at least once. Okay, that's actually really freaking sweet. I can't believe I wrote that. That is so cool. See, that's the other thing. I sometimes regret, well, I often regret getting in that relationship, but I know that God put me in that relationship to, first of all, lead me to John, but second of all, well, really, first of all, to lead me to God through, like in that relationship, I was so sad all the time. It really made me wonder about religion and God. And so it like softened my heart up to him. And then through my relationship is actually how I met John, through that breakup. So I needed John as a means to get me into the church. But that's crazy that I wrote that. Okay, work a lot more. That's a good one too, because then you're filling your time with something. And like, sure, you may be thinking about that breakup while you're working, but you know, at least you're making money. Watch new shows and movies. Do something you have to dedicate time to, like training for a 5K or something. That's a good one too. Like, just find a new hobby that you have to actually put effort into, because that's gonna motivate you and get you out of that like depressive slump. Color adult coloring books. I love adult coloring books. They're so relaxing. So that's actually some really good advice that I wrote in 2021. Literally October 6th, 2021 is when I wrote that. That's crazy. Okay. I can't believe that. Managing college and work at the same time. A lot of you guys asked about like work-life balance tips, and this is my expertise, so I would love to give advice on this. What has always worked for me is having a designated schedule. So I have classes Tuesday, Thursday. I work Monday through Thursday on campus. I mean, I work for TikTok and YouTube all the time, but I have to set designated schedules. So like I will divide up all the homework I have for the week to make sure that I get it all done from Monday to Friday. I don't do any homework on the weekends, period. I don't check my work email on the weekends, because when you do that, you can never turn your mind off of work. And that significantly affects your stress and your brain. So you have to do that, because then on the weekend, I can prioritize on my friends or my family or my fiance, because I'm not worried about my schoolwork or my actual work. And then as far as a job, it was harder when I was working as a server and doing school, because I would work as a server on the weekends. So then I never just got that designated time to like not worry about work or school. So that's a little bit more of a challenge, but prioritize the work you have to get done, make your to-do list, and if you write something on a to-do list, do it. Like, don't write, you have to make specific to-do lists. Don't put a bunch of crap on your to-do list that you're not gonna actually be able to do, because then you just get in the habit of being like, okay, I'm gonna write a to-do list, but if I don't get what I write down done, it doesn't matter. No, make very realistic to-do lists so that you get in the habit of only writing things down you're gonna get done. I should probably honestly just do a whole video about that kind of stuff, because I have so much to say about it, but I've been talking for so long. There's so many good ones and I'm not gonna be able to get to them. Should I get an apartment with my brother? Rent is so expensive. Definitely. I would totally live with my sister. Like right now I live with my two best friends. Eventually I'll live with John. If I wasn't in a relationship but I was gonna move after college, I would probably live with my sister. I would probably be okay living alone if I needed to, but in this economy, who can afford to live alone? So I would say go for it. Okay, there's so many more, but I've literally recorded like 45 minutes of footage already, so I'm just gonna do one more question and then maybe I'll do like another video like this in the future to answer more of these. But someone said, how do you stay being independent in a relationship and keep that healthy balance? Which is such a good question, and I feel like it's something we all struggle with because when we're single and we see our friends get in relationships, then we see them like stop hanging out with us and only wanting to hang out with their boyfriends and doing all these things. And then you say, whenever I get in a relationship, I'm never gonna be like that. And then you get in a relationship and you do that exact thing. I feel like that's just something everyone has experienced in their life. First of all, it's normal though. Whenever you do get in a new relationship, it's like so exciting that you do just wanna be with them all the time. And like 3 years in, I still wanna be with John literally all the time. But you do start to realize, especially if you were independent before a relationship, how important it is to stay independent and not become codependent on your partner, which I definitely have in a lot of aspects, but there is still this like strong sense of independence inside me. Maybe it's actually stubbornness, I don't know. But don't always prioritize your partner over other things, like your friendships and things like that. I'm not saying all the time. Like sometimes you do have to prioritize your partner, but don't just say no to hanging out with your friends and doing something just because you want to hang out with your boyfriend or something like that. I'm really trying to embrace that as I'm in the last period of time of living with someone other than my significant other. I'm like, I really need to cherish these moments with my girl roommates because yeah, we're gonna be friends forever, but I know for a fact, like after a few years, I'm gonna look back and miss living with them. So prioritize things like that and then prioritize yourself. Like go to the gym, keep the habits that you used to have, which can be hard because it's like if I'm hanging out with John and we're just like laying in bed together, it's really hard to find the motivation to be like, okay, I told myself I was gonna go to the gym today, so I'm gonna leave you in this comfy, cozy bed and I'm gonna go prioritize myself and go to the gym. But you just gotta. And I think it's also a form of self-love when you're appreciating yourself and doing things that better you, because a better you is gonna make you a better partner. So that'd probably be my advice on that. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm sorry that I kind of ramble. I feel like whenever I read these questions, when I first put the question box on Instagram, I have like such perfectly worded responses in my head, and then I go to press record and I just like don't remember what I want to say, and I get like lost on these tangents. So anyway, thanks for putting up with me if you made it this far into this video. I love you guys. I definitely love these videos, so if you want more, let me know because I can happily provide that. But thank you guys for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!